Welcome to Corporate Citizen Conversations. Today we have with us Veena Chugh, CEO, Arthaa Advisors, and she is a global HR transformational leader also, a talent strategist, and she is also a book author. So, ma'am, my first question to you is like, as you have a lot of experience in HR, with AI and HR tech coming in, will HR remain the same? What will remain human of the human resources?
That's a very interesting question.
Okay.
What's going to remain human of the human resources is that I think we are at a great inflection point because we can decide the course of how this is going to evolve. So, for me, it is the way I see the way this whole process is evolving is that all of us need to, and this has to be all set of people, including the governance, right from the corporate, the corporate world, the governance, the local. All of us have to come as a body to decide what is the future that we want to create. And we need the representation from each section. The reason we need that representation from each section is because we do not know how this is going to evolve, and it's touching every aspect of our life, right? And so I cannot do things in isolation. How does it impact education? How does it impact governance? How does it impact corporate HR? So for me, the way to see it will be that let's create like a body which has representation from all different sections and set down the rules. So when you are talking it from an organizational context, it again is something that, all functions have to come together to decide how they want to implement this. It cannot be just how HR thinks of implementing or automating certain functions, but what is the impact of that implementation when you do an automation or an AI? How does it impact my IT? How does it impact my sales? So I think the way I see it is that we all now have to come and form a team to navigate this inflection point.
Every company has a strategic insight, to move the business forward. Now, how can HR blend strategic insight with human resource management to drive initiatives that directly align with the company's business objectives?
So the most important thing here is that. So I'll take you back to my experience because I worked with two companies where I was directly reporting to the CEO of the organization. So my thought here would be that as an HR head or HR leader for an organization, you have to be in sync with what is the direction of the organization. So I would spend a lot of time with the CEO just to understand what is the vision he has for the company. And what does he foresee? What is his, like when I joined, what is his expectations in the next 90 days? Or, how do we foresee it for 1 year? So if we are thinking of an HR strategy for a company, it has to be definitely aligned with the business strategy, and HR people have to become more sensitive and understand more about the business and understand what are going to be the next 3, 5, 10 years goal the business is envisioning for themselves. And then you are going to work hand in hand with the management to build your strategy. It cannot be aloof. It cannot be like, I did like that in the previous company and I'm going to implement it, because each business is different. You need to understand what is happening within that industry. So I used to attend a lot of these HR forums of the industry just to know, what the competition is doing or what the similar industries are doing, because that way you get a lot of input and you are able to use that input and even, work with your management to implement, a business aligned HR strategy.
Now, one of the challenges for HR today is dealing with grooming Gen Z for leadership roles. How would you mentor Gen Z to take on leadership roles? And how will you incorporate them into the succession plan?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. So the difference that I have noticed, and I worked with a lot of millennials and maybe less with Gen Z because there's a transition point period for me. But what I notice is that there is overpromise and underdeliver. That is really a problem that I faced with the millennials. But with Gen Z, or even the generations after that, is that there is a gap the way, because now you have a lot of Gen X and millennials who are in leadership roles, okay? And they have to build a constant communication channel with the Gen Z, because Gen Z, I call them a smartphone generation. Everything is at a click of a button, right? Khana lekar aana hai, you want to buy anything, everything is like a click of a button, and everything is instant. I would have my team coming and telling me, oh, when I'm going to get the next promotion, I don't remember doing that to my boss for a long, long time, going and telling him, when is my next promotion? What should I do? But everybody in this generation is very instant and looking for growth very quick. So I think the most important thing is to build a great communication channel and to understand the expectations, and to understand what is their expectations, what is our expectation out of them, and then have a mentoring system. Identify who are your top talent in your Gen Z, and then work with them. What excites them, what are they seeking, and then you have to see, are you able to build those opportunities within the organization? And if you are not, then you have to let them go. You cannot hold on to them. So the way I see about grooming the Gen Z leadership is open communication and dialogue, which is very important, because there is a big generational disconnect that I see today between the different kind of workforce levels we have. I see it. It's something that we don't really talk about it. We just put it under the carpet. People don't really talk about these issues, but there is a big generational disconnect. And for me, I think dialogue and communication is very important.
Now, during this COVID pandemic, the HR faced biggest challenge of transformational changes. Now, as an HR continues to help business move forward, what are the biggest challenges now HR face today with AI coming in this post-pandemic period?
With the AI coming in, we need to, so the most important thing is, you cannot take away the human of the human resource, right? There are certain aspects of HR where you need a human connect to talk, especially some very sensitive conversations which can be related to improvement of performance. And AI cannot do that. A bot cannot talk you and counsel you into it or mentor you. He might just say certain things to you. So I think there are repetitive tasks which AI can do, which are mundane, which are repetitive, which are very system driven. You have your, I wouldn't say induction, but joining process. It can be driven by an AI. But when you're doing induction of an individual into the organization, you cannot completely you can do some technical skills of induction through an AI generated training, but you cannot do the, the soft skill training with an AI. It doesn't work. So I think it's about deciding what you are going to automate with AI and what cannot be automated. There are such roles there are certain aspects of HR which you cannot automate. Like, it's probably this, I don't know whether this is an example. Somebody is having a health issue and is not coming to work, okay? Now, I as an HR cannot tell a bot to call the person, right? It's not. I would, as a manager, call that employee and understand, what support he needs. What kind of support he needs, how long will he take. You also, if they're covered under insurance, you try to understand what help the organization can give. So that cannot be done by an AI. Or if you are, coaching someone to take the next role, that an AI cannot do. Coaching, mentorship, all those roles AI cannot do. And those are HR-centric roles. Those will always remain with HR. And that part of HR, the human will remain in the human resources.
So one last question. You are a book author also, and you have a book called The Pink Rose and Other Short Stories, which are stories that based on reflections of life. So can you tell us like what message you want to bring out to the readers through these reflections?
My great message or my
What are the
key
stories about first?
So these stories, of course, it's fiction. I can talk about the first story, which is the sinner becomes the saint at the gallows. It's a story about someone who commits crime, is very young, is 20 years old, is put in the prison, is going to be hanged. And but there comes a time now he doesn't care, right? The way his mind was, he's done so much crime, he doesn't care. But the minute the time comes for him to be hanged, there is fear settling in now. And so the story is about how he handles fear. And in that story, now he reaches a point where now he's at peace with himself because he talks to a voice beyond. In this case, the voices of God. God's voice is just trying to talk to him. And he becomes very peaceful while exiting. He's okay now to die because he knows that this is what he committed, and every action has a reaction, so he's going to bear it. But this is not the end of the journey, because I'm also in a way connecting to Hinduism, because we know there is rebirth, right? So it's about, if I am peaceful in this, I take full ownership, I did crime, I'm going to be hanged, abhi ka settle ho gaya, I can start in the next birth a new life, fresh. But my intention has become better now when I'm exiting. So that's the story. So a lot of my stories are like that because they are very reflective. They help you to reflect and take on a message. So my message to the readers was that no matter how many bad things you did, there's always a new beginning. The only thing is that you have to tell yourself, I did it, and I'm going to face all these consequences, but then I'm going to better my act going forward. So there is a kind of peace. So my stories are like that.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for speaking with Corporate Citizen.